In lesson 8.4, as long as you already understand how to multiply two polynomials together, which was yesterday's lesson, then you're going to apply the same exact skills, but there are a few shortcuts and a few things that you should notice about them. Write this down, and as soon as you have it written down, hit play, and we'll go through the example. What you have to remember here, and this is extremely important, is when we're talking about exponents, when you had monomials and you were squaring them, you just took the squared and you distributed to each part of your monomial and you were done. If you were to do that here, all you would be doing is squaring your x and squaring your 7. You'd be missing a whole middle piece to this that you have to be very aware of. So you do not get to just distribute your squared when you see more than one term in the parentheses. You need to stop and think about it like what we talked about in the past, where you think about what this means is it actually means x plus 7 times x plus 7. Now you should see exactly what we had in lesson 8.3, where you're multiplying two binomials together and you should end up with 4 terms, and then if you combine like terms if you can. So I'm going to go ahead and show this to you using the rectangle. What you end up with is x plus 7 times x plus 7. You multiply it all out, which you were all doing really well at, so I'm not going to take much time on that. You get x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49. Here's what I want you to notice in this. When you do that, you end up with the same term here twice. So you can say I have 7x plus 7x, which is 14x. So you end up with x squared plus 14x plus 49. Or you can memorize a shortcut, which I'm about to show you. If you don't memorize the shortcut, that's okay, but I still want you to see it, and I want you to think about it every time you notice this, because it's going to help you later. What you can do for the shortcut is you can say, I know x is going to be squared. That's going to be my first term. There it is. I also know 7 is going to be squared. That's going to be my last term, 49. But I need that middle term. And the way you find the middle term is you just multiply these two together, the two terms. 7 times x is 7x. And then you double it. And by doubling it, I mean times 2. 7x times 2 is 14x. And that will work every single time you have one of these. So we'll practice that a little bit more tomorrow, but I wanted you to at least see it once tonight. And the way that works out here is your a squared, there's your a squared, plus, because we have a plus sign here, an addition sign here, a times b, but you're multiplying it twice, so 2ab, not squared, 2 times ab, plus b squared. And we're going to go over another example right now that's the exact same, but it has subtraction here. And what you're going to find is that you still get an a squared and you still get a b squared, but your middle term is going to end up being minus 2ab plus b squared. So we'll try one of those right now. Let's try 9c minus 8. Squared. Okay, if you wanted to use the rectangle, you would just go ahead and write 9c minus 8 and 9c minus 8, and you would notice you'd get the same term here in the middle. If you wanted to distribute, you would just write this out twice, and then you would use the distributing that we've been using. If you want to use the shortcut, because you notice this is a binomial squared, you're going to multiply the first term by itself. You're going to multiply 9 squared. So 9 times 9 is 81. And then c squared. That's your first term. Then you're going to make your middle term. And your middle term is a negative, because you have a negative times a positive. And then you take 8 times 9 times c. Hopefully you see that. 8 times 9 times c is going to be 72c. But then you need to double that. So we can even put 2 times 72c. Then you square this. Notice negative 8 times negative 8 is a positive 64. Now you multiply this here and you have your answer. 81c squared subtracting 72 times 2 is going to be 144c plus 64. And that is a binomial squared. Now we're going to look at something called a difference of squares. Notice here, instead of having a plus b squared or a minus b squared, now we have a plus b times a minus b. Something different is going to happen here, and it's very easy to confuse these, so you always need to think about applying the rules you've learned for the regular ones if you start to get confused. Let's try one, and I'll show you what happens with these differences of squares. We're going to try, this is example 2, d plus 11 times d subtracting 11. And again, I'm going to go ahead and show you using the rectangle, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about the shortcut. So if I had d plus 11 here and d minus 11 here, go through and multiply. Again, I'm not going to spend much time because I know you know this. D times d is d squared. I have a positive 11d. I have a negative 11d. And then I multiply positive times negative. Make sure you get that negative in right there, because if you don't, then you're going to end up with a positive. It's going to be wrong. And 11 times 11 is 121. Now you look and you go to combine your like terms. Notice this time, instead of doubling, what happens? Hopefully you noticed you have a positive 11 and negative 11. It becomes 0. It actually cancels out, and you end up with d squared subtracting 121. And that's why it's called a difference of two squares, because you have the positive and the negative. You always are going to end up with a negative right here on these. These will never have a positive at the end because you had to have a positive and a negative here with that negative. And this is going to really help you if you get this down now when we get to Chapter 8, Part 2 with the factoring, because we're going to be factoring differences of squares whenever we see them. So the rule here is that you actually end up with a squared, and then you end up with a plus ab, and then a minus ab, and then subtracting b squared, and those right there end up combining and canceling, and you end up with a squared minus b squared as your final. Notice we have our a squared, there's our a, and our b squared. So the shortcut to this is when you notice I have the same exact a, same exact b, opposite signs. All you do is take the a, because it's going to be the same, so it doesn't matter, square it. There it is. Take the b, same, square it, put a subtraction sign in the middle. And we'll practice those more tomorrow.